you had consistent access to healthy food growing up, take a step forward. If you took out loans for your education, take a step back.
I liked where we started the exercises holding hands, and as we were going further forward and back, we were stretching to stay connected. And there came to a point where we could no longer be together. And so when we ended up, I wanted to grab the hand of the person again to see how I can maybe help bring her along or feel like I'm there supporting her throughout the experience. And so that's what I think a community is all about. How can we realize where we land, but bring others with us as we go through life?
If you attended private school, take a step forward. If you have ever been told you are well-spoken, take a step back.
There are people who have had a lot of privileges in their lives, and there are those of us who have some but not a lot, but we still thrive.
If you feel your race and gender have adequate representation in media, take a step forward. If your parents work nights and or on the weekends to support your family, take a step back. If you can show affection for your romantic partner in public without fear of ridicule or violence, take a step forward. If someone has made an uncomfortable joke relating to race or gender and you stayed silent, take a step back.
I'm probably the only Asian here and also the only Chinese in my team and this company. But I do feel like I'm very welcomed by everyone, and the people around me are very nice. And the time I'm being here, that I don't feel like alone, even though I am literally alone.
If your parents told you that you can do anything you wanted, take a step forward. If you have ever thought twice about calling the police when in trouble, take a step back. If you study the culture of your ancestors in elementary school, take a step forward.
I think what I learned about myself is that I need to acknowledge the diversity more, because I definitely know it exists, but I don't realize how separating it can be at times. And I think I've never been in a situation where it's been that isolating. And so looking back, I started next to Doris, and looking back where I ended in the front and she was all the way in the back, that was a little bit of a takeaway for me.
If you have ever been the only person of your race in a room, take a step back. If your grandparents were all born in the United States, take a step forward. If you have done something well and been congratulated because you're a credit to your race, take a step back. If you went to school speaking a language other than English, take a step back.
I was very surprised with where I ended up. To me, I thought I was somewhat successful, and having overcome a lot of adversity, I was, in my mind, I'm thinking I've accomplished a lot, and then we did this, and I realized that I was still I was in the back. So I was a little shocked that I was where I was at, yes.
If you have ever tried to change your appearance or behavior to avoid being judged or ridiculed, take a step back. If your family ever had to move because they cannot afford the rent, take a step back. If you were taken to art galleries or plays by your parents, take a step forward. If you were raised in a single-parent household, take a step back. If there were people who worked for your family as servants, gardeners, nannies, take a step forward. If you were ever called names because of your race, class, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation, take a step back.
I think what actually shocked me was the diversity amongst the women of color. I saw, for example, 2 African American women who were about the same age, and they ended up in the same place, which was about the middle row. But for the most part, everything else was sort of what I would have expected for the most part.
If there were more than 50 books in your house when you grew up, take a step forward. If you have ever been followed around in a retail store by a store employee, take a step back. If you have health insurance, take a step forward.
We are visually a very diverse community. We've grown so much over the years, and then when you take a look at from what this city of Atlanta has come from segregation and probably before, it's just the growth has been astronomical. But at the same time, we have some current statistics around we are the most inequitable city. As we take a look at all the growth that's happening around us, it certainly makes you wonder how and why is this happening, and who's being included and who's not being included. So it leaves me with the common phrase that I hear: we've come so far, but we're back where we're started from in some sense.
If you've ever talked with your children about how to stay safe when stopped by the police, take a step back. If you have ever inherited money or property, take a step forward. If, while growing up, you had to work to contribute to your family's finances, take one step back. If your family took vacations out of your hometown growing up, take a step forward. If your ancestors were forced to come to the United States, take one step back. If your family owned the house where you grew up, take one step forward. If you were paid less or treated less fairly because of race or ethnicity, gender or sexual orientation, take one step back. So this is your final positions.
I'm a small sample of the only white guy in the group, so I figured I would be at the front alone, but I wasn't completely alone.
I guess I was a little shocked where I ended up at the end of the privilege wall because I was in the very back, the last person. But I knew I would be near the back. I just didn't know I would be the last person in the back.